All right, it is time for our final mock drafts. I'm almost getting a little emotional about it. We've done a lot of these, Dylan, in the lead up to the 2025 AFL Draft.
Too many.
There is no such thing as too many mocks. There is so much that kind of changes, I suppose, in the narrative of what's happening and what people expect. And today we're going to do our final run through of the top 30, starting from West Coast, ending with whoever that may be. I'm not too sure. Before we get into it, Dylan, do you know what the number 50.4% represents?
No, I do not.
The amount of people that watch our videos in the last month that have not hit subscribe. So before we get into the draft, if you could do us a favor and make sure you have subscribed, that would be very helpful. That way you can keep up with us as we cover some of the post-draft stuff. And we've also got a little bit to tell you. We will be live on day 2 of the draft this year. I'll make some videos from home following day 1. And then on the Saturday, the 22nd, will be our final show of the year. But for now, I think we get into our mock draft for the final time, Dylan. What do you say?
Let's do it. Now, I've come into this mock draft. We've done, as you said, lots in the lead up to this that have been a little bit more, I guess, what we maybe think the club should do, that side of it, or maybe, a little bit of both. But I think this one's going to be more about what we think is going to happen a little bit more, using some of those rumours and news stories that have broken, linking players to clubs. So this is what you can kind of take with a few days to go before the draft as more likely, let's say.
I hope so. I hope this actually helps us be more accurate, or does it send us the other way because we're trying too hard? I'm not sure. But we'll go pick by pick, obviously, and discuss them because there's a few bolters out there and a few things that sort of go against what how we rank the players. Or at least public consensus seems to have shifted on a few players. So
absolutely. Let's kick in.
Let's kick in. With pick 1, I will select for the West Coast Eagles, Willem Dersma. I think this is just about the only absolute lock that you can probably bank on aside from clubs matching bids, etc.
If they didn't do it, if West Coast didn't pick Dersma, that would throw everything.
That would be crazy. You'd almost love to see it for the theatre, but Dersma will make his way to West Coast. What do you reckon happens with pick 2, Dylan?
Pick 2 is a very interesting one. Before I do anything else, I'm going to put the bid down here on Zeke Ulan. I think this comes here. Of course, we don't know a ton about Zeke Ulan from 2025, but he was one of the, most prodigious talents coming into the season. I think he still sort of sits in this sort of top 3, top 4 area. Then at pick 2, which is one that I've kind of had to go a little bit more with my head here based on connection to the club and that sort of thing. But most people in the industry think that the West Coast Eagles are going to take Cooper Duff-Tytler. He may well turn out to be the second best talent or the second best open pool talent in this draft, but will he be able to get into that team and make an impact early enough? And will he have that sort of development arc going to the West Coast Eagles? I think that's going to be tough, and I don't think necessarily they should do this, but I'm going with Cooper Duff-Tytler at pick 3.
Yeah, it seems really unclear what West Coast will do from the outside looking in, but if you go best available talent, hopefully that is the right call here. With pick 4, Richmond's going to bid on Gold Coast Dylan Patterson. Where exactly this bid falls a little bit academic, but it seems to be Richmond is most likely to be the ones. Whether it's their first or second pick, I'm not sure, but we'll go with pick 4.
There seems to be an industry sort of consensus here that Richmond are going to sort of double, triple bid sort of thing, don't they? They're just going to go full on with all of their picks, whereas most teams, generally speaking, have kind of, split a pick, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a tough one being in this situation with such a compromised draft because on the one hand, you don't want to alienate other teams too much, but at the same time, you're kind of also just sort of acquiescing, if that's the right word, to the imbalance the competition has.
I don't know what that means, but it sounded good.
I think like letting it happen, you're just conceding defeat if you don't bid on these players where you think is an appropriate bid. So we don't want to see too much of that, but let's go with Dylan Patterson at pick 4. At pick 5, Richmond is going to select Sullivan Roby, the playmaker that adds a point of difference to their very young midfield. And then you have Richmond's second pick, Dylan.
I do, and I'm going to place another bid here on Dan Annable. Again, that kind of rumour that Richmond are going to go pretty heavy on their bids. I think Dan Annable's one of the better, most consistent midfielders in this crop, so I think he fits in nicely here, which then leads Richmond into their second pick, which is still a little bit up in the air. And of course, they're dictated to a little bit from what West Coast do as well. So then at pick 7, I'm going to come in here. I have linked them to Sam Grill pretty heavily. I think he's probably more of the need and gives them that pace. But I think they've gone with Sullivan Roby, who's a little bit more of that X-factor player, and they're probably going to want to put him down with a player that has leadership coming into the young group. So I think Xavier Taylor might be not necessarily the better fit, but I think maybe the right fit in this particular situation. So we know what he can do. He really marshals the defence and probably gives him a long-term replacement for a Vlosten or a Broad or one of those guys who's going to go out of the team in the medium term.
I love this suitability, I suppose, of Taylor. I also think he's probably close to the biggest sure thing in this draft of becoming what we think he will be. What can I just say as an aside, with Richmond, they have been heavily linked to about 7 players with their 2 picks. Like there's a prevailing rumour that Dyson Sharp and Sam Cumming might be part of this mix now.
Even in recent days, yeah, like those guys seem to have picked up a little bit of momentum for that pick. So there's Sam Grill, who to me sort of suggests that nobody's interested in from other teams in that top end. Richmond are keen, but then they're also keen in Sharp, Cumming, who are completely different types on the other end of the scale, plus Taylor, who's the defender. So but ultimately, I think you're right. I think Taylor's from his base level as just an intercept defender, a running defender, I think he can do that really well. And then what's next is maybe even a bigger ceiling.
Yeah, absolutely. So Richmond, with a little bit of shithousery, putting out a few rumours, I reckon, but good on them. It just makes it very hard to mock draft. I have Essendon here, selecting Dyson Sharp with pick 8. I think that he probably replaces a little bit of what they've cut or hasn't really succeeded as that first possession midfielder. Obviously, they've just cut Ben Hobbs, and they still have another pick to add another more dynamic midfielder if they want. But Dyson Sharp is so well performed, and with that leadership quality, probably adds something that Essendon are looking for with the young group.
I agree with that. I think Sharp, given everything that he provides, he's the most consistent player across this entire draft year. If you just wanted to pick the best player from this crop right now, you're picking Dyson Sharp. So there's not as much of a trajectory that he needs to make to even get into the AFL, I feel. He's going to be one of the better players when he hits it. Essendon need this. They need leaders. They need those kind of guys with that dog fight in them. So I think he brings that. And then they've got the back-to-back picks, which they can kind of level up with a different type of player, which is me on the board.
It is.
It's me on the board. So the first thing I'm going to do is place a bid here. I think all of these teams with double picks will do this to some extent. And I'm going to bid on Harry Dean from Carlton, make them pay up. They'll obviously match that bid. And then I'm going to go with Sam Cumming to the Bombers with that next pick, which would fall in at pick 10 in the end. So I think the Dyson Sharp, Sam Cumming, it sort of really future-proofs their midfield on some level, and it gives them a little bit of yin and yang. They've got Cumming, who's a bit more explosive, a little bit more athletic, and can take marks and go forward. Dyson Sharp still has that forward craft in him, but he's more of a first possession stoppage player. So they've got, getting the first possession, getting their hands on the ball, winning that contested possession in there, and a little bit more flair with Sam Cumming.
Yeah, we were talking about some of these players' athletic attributes before the stream started, and I think you used the phrase that you really like Cumming explosively. So just working through the top 10, we had Dersma pick 1, but followed by Hewland joining the Suns at pick 2. Cooper Duff-Tytler joined the Eagles, pairing up with Dersma there before Patterson joins Hewland at the Gold Coast Suns. Richmond went Roby and Taylor with a bid on Animal in between. And Essendon went Dyson Sharp and Sam Cumming, a couple of SA midfielders, with Harry Dean being bid on at pick 9.
Given that we're 1 for 1 here, do you have anything that kind of jumps out at you in that top 10 where you're like, what's going on here?
I think that if I was Essendon, I might have possibly gone someone different than Dyson Sharp. I think that could be one to watch on the actual draft night. I could see him slipping a little bit further, not too much further. Like Hawthorn GWS is probably as far as he'd go. But I wouldn't be surprised if Essendon don't double up on those mids with someone like a Farrow also linked to them.
Interesting. Which brings us on to the next 10 picks, 11 to 20, starting with the Ds. And that's you, Jesse.
It is me. I'm going to take the player I just mentioned, Jacob Farrow, a player that's bolting a little bit in terms of he seems to be continually linked to teams higher up the order without actual football being played at the moment. But really nice attributes. Melbourne do like drafting out of WA as well, which is a bit of a factor there. But he's been linked to them by Toomey, and I think also adds something a little bit different. They don't really have a player like Farrow on their list, and they're not afraid to just pick the guy they think is suitable, which allows me to feel a bit freer about taking someone like a Jacob Farrow, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think he's versatile enough. I mean, there's probably an argument that he sits relatively close to someone like a Harvey Langford, that both those sort of big-bodied mids, left footers, but Farrow probably has a little bit more dynamism in him, and he can play behind the ball, so it's not as if you're married to having to play them in that same sort of position. So I think that's a part of it. Next at pick 12 then, I am the D's again on the board. And I think if he did slip through here, I'm pretty sure this is as far as he would get, and I'm going for Sam Greal, who we've often mocked to Richmond right up the top end of the board. There seems to be a consensus with the clubs that he would slide a little bit and get past the Essendons and even the who's in between there. There's pretty much that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, Essendon, Richmond, yeah.
Yeah, so he could slip past Essendon, but I think he wouldn't get past Melbourne.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call, which gives me Hawthorn's pick 13. They're still in a nice position here where there are some good players available. None of them really midfielders. Maybe there's one that could be considered at this pick, but I'm going to go Josh Lindsay here. I think he is such a damaging running sort of player that fits that Hawthorn brand. And while I don't really have any insight as to who they're likely to take, I think Lindsay has 200 gamer written all over him, and I think he's a safe bet to be a good player. Similar to Xavier Taylor, I feel like we can foresee what Lindsay will be at the next level, and I think Hawthorn will like that.
I think that's a fair call, and he's, again, similar to what I said about Dyson Sharp as far as a player that comes straight into the AFL, plays really well, and when you're a team like Hawthorn up the top of the ladder, I think that makes sense. You could always go down the route of drafting a key position player that you develop for a few years, but he's someone that potentially could contribute to them making a push up the ladder in 2026. So that works. We go to Carlton then, which leaves them in an interesting position. And I think they kind of could go for anyone, but they haven't really ever drafted high, like in the first round, a small forward type player. So I think if Doveston is on the board here, I think they snap him up. I think they probably would go for Lindsay if he was there, but Doveston is probably the next best available talent, and he's something a little bit different for that forward line. They've got plenty of good mids. I think their key position stocks are fairly well stocked. I mean, they could go for one again, as I said, but Doveston would give them a bit of an edge, I think, in the forward half of the ground.
I think Carlton fans will be stoked with that. Doveston to them is really good suitability, I suppose, but also I feel like he could also play pretty well in season one. You know what I mean? Which I think will also appeal to them as a team that's not really, they're not rebuilding, they're trying to rejig their list, and I think Doveston improves them.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of saw it a little bit with Nick Watson, didn't we? I know he was in and out of the side, and he spent some time in the VFL kind of getting some consistency, and there will be that with a small forward, but I think it works. I think he does play well straight away for sure. Then we have GWS, and it's you, Jesse.
It is me. They're a tricky one to pick for because I feel like they're so rogue. And
they're so rogue.
I still like Oscar Taylor for them personally. I think he suits their ball movement style with his run and dash, and a lot of high upside there. I probably could also see them going early on guys like Cameron Nairn. Who else? Harley Barker. Even, I don't know if they'd go a Latrell Pickett. They do love their small forwards, but I'm going to go with Oscar Taylor. I think he could be a bargain in this selection, to be honest.
Yeah, I like it. Definitely suits their mould of players. I suppose they're, again, similar to Hawthorn. They're in that thing of like, are they going or are they coming? It's like, is this a bit of a reset for them? They have been linked also to Latrell Pickett, haven't they?
Yes. Yeah,
the Giants, as
recently.
far as Darcy Jones is going to miss the 2026 season, so they could be after a small forward, but I do like Oscar Taylor.
Good point.
And he's linked. West Coast are back on the board, and they're a tricky one. I know their fans aren't super keen on this. Definitely not super keen on this, but I think they are going to want to try to pick up a midfielder with one of these picks. Probably the guys that they're really after, like your Farrows, your Cummings, your Dyson Sharps, they're all gone at this point for sure, but Ollie Greaves might be there. And I think they would take him if available here at pick 16.
Well, it does give them the midfield they needed. We know that the Eagles might potentially try to trade up to pick 9 on the Knights to see if, there's a Dyson Sharp there. Because that is possible. But they'd have to actually commit to that before they get to that pick anyway, if that makes sense. So We'll see, but I understand why you pick a midfielder there for West Coast. At pick 17, the Bulldogs enter the draft, and I think previously we've had Lindsay going to him. He's now unavailable in this scenario. I'm going to bolt a little bit on Cameron Nairn. I have been a little bit hot on him in recent times since I made that Batman joke. Picked him, I think I picked Nairn for the Dogs for their second pick recently, but we've seen Toomey and the age, I read it, that the D's are considering Nairn in their top 12 picks.
The age were very early on this.
Yeah,
I think it's McGowan.
Yep.
Reported that a few weeks ago, and I was interested. It felt too high, but there seems to be some fire with that smoke.
With Nairn, yeah. I mean, like if you consider him just a third tall at 189 centimeters or whatever he is, then you probably don't go this early. But if he has the running capacity, which I believe he does, and some degree of performance, like production, winning the footy, like at his last couple of games, I think in the under 18s he had 30 and 31. It's not a lot. It's not a big body of work rather. But if he becomes that higher volume player, then you've suddenly got a lot of ingredients there. So I think he could be a real smoky.
He's one of those interesting ones, Nans, not to get stuck on him for too long here, but he's not the most aesthetic player. Like, he runs around a little bit action man-y. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not comparing him to Bailey Smith, but Bailey Smith's kind of that guy where he doesn't necessarily look like the smoothest moving player. And I feel like that's Cameron Nairn, and it throws you off a little bit, but he's very high impact, wins the footy, and he is that taller, bigger bodied, so he's good in the air as well, and he can be a bit of a utility in that space. So I do get this one.
He is also who I would have taken for West Coast had I had that pick, but we're back to you, Dylan.
Interesting. So then I am back on the board at pick 18 with the Adelaide Crows, and I'm just going to snavel up here, I think, the best available talent, and it just happens to be local talent in Mitch Marsh. Now, we've had him mocked anywhere from about closer to the top 10 back into the 20s as well, and I think he's a difficult one to place. Similar to Nairn, like you said, he's that kind of third tall, but he can go into the midfield. I think his long-term trajectory at AFL level could be similar to Dan Curtin, where he comes in and plays a bit as a tall winger, a marking winger, and he can run. He's got athleticism. He can kick goals. He's a bit of a dead eye in front of goals as well. So he's not going to come in and have an immediate impact, I don't think, for the Adelaide Crows, but one that's highly talented and can future-proof them.
Yeah, I think there's like 3 SA boys here that I think could have gone that pick, and I don't have an argument against Mitch Marsh. But now with Geelong's pick, I think it is, yes, Geelong, I am going to take one of the other ones, and I'm going to take Aiden Schubert. Yes.
Chewbacca, man.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
I'm the only one that's ever said that.
Yeah. No, I like my own puns. Anyway, it's true, but I think just a long-term KPF prospect. I think with him, it's probably just a case of too good to pass up here for the Cats. They're a team that's so strong, and therefore, like, it's not every day that they have a high-quality key position player in the first round available to them. Therefore, I think they'll go a Schubert over, say, a Philippou at this pick, but I considered both.
He's a tricky one again, isn't he? He's another one that you could see him conceivably going in the top 10 to one of those double-pick teams.
True.
He is, like, undoubtedly the best pure key position forward in this draft. So it's interesting that he's going this low, but I agree. I think Geelong, even the Crows would be in for this. I've gone Marsh, but it could be Schubert as well, depending on what they like, which puts me on the board. Pick 20, the Freo Dockers. And I just think, again, they sort of go for a bit of upside here. They go for a player that others have passed up on for various reasons. They're in a pretty good position to have a swing at this one. So I think they go for Jevon Philippou. And given where they are as like a top 8, pushing for finals, but wanting to go that next step, I think he brings them something a bit different and probably will have success at Freo. I think they have a good environment for him to be able to thrive, where I wouldn't really like to see him necessarily go to that rebuilding side where he has to kind of lift them up.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's why I didn't I haven't really focused in on him for West Coast picks, but I think, a stronger side could get the best out of Philippou early. He could probably be a good player anywhere he goes, but at Fremantle, you just know he's going to be a good player. Maybe there's a little bit of cognitive bias because of, I don't want to see that happen, but, I can see it working.
I reckon we've done mocks this entire off season, and somehow Freo end up with an absolute superstar player.
I think we've given him. I think we've given him Barker. We've given him Latrell Pickett was probably the most outlandish. Hibbins-Hargreaves and Philippou, and I'm not sure if we gave them Schubert at one point, but there's just a lot of good talent there.
It's a really intriguing part of the draft for sure. So that rounds out the top 20. If we want to just throw that graphic back up on the board, I'll go through it from pick 11, which was with the Melbourne Football Club. They took Jacob Farrow at pick 11, Sam Grill at pick 12, so they got the double there, a little bit of difference, light and shade. Josh Lindsay went to the Hawks at pick 13, Lockie Doveston at 14 to the Blues, a small forward, Oscar Taylor at 15 to the Giants, Ollie Greaves to West Coast, Cam Nairn, a bit of a bolter there to the Western Bulldogs at pick 17. Mitch Marsh, the local boy, to the Crows. And then the Cats take Aiden Schubert as the best key position player in the draft. 20 is Jevon Philippou to the Freo Darkers.
It just occurred to me there with Nairn, I'm wondering if he's the one rebuttal Dogs fans might have is they took Cooper Hines last year, who was another 190 centimetre, could play as a third tall or as a midfielder. I would describe them as pretty different. And I think the Nairn, I'm answering the complaint I've come up with in my own head. I'm rebutting that thing.
I do that all the time.
But it just occurred to me as I looked at it, I was like, they're similar. But I think Nairn is a bit more of that run and carry player and high endurance.
I actually don't think you need to answer that question.
Yeah. I'd just like to add a little bit to my own analysis.
Nairn's more utility.
Yeah.
More of a runner and someone that can get it on the outside as well. So I think they're different enough. So 21 is the Bombers.
That's me, I think.
Who you got, Jesse?
So you may have realised we haven't done any mock trades in this one, and we will continue not to because it's too much of a pain in the ass, to be honest with you. But we I do think there's a possibility Essendon don't have this pick. They may be moved to the Gold Coast Suns. In this scenario, Noah Hibbins-Hargreaves here, I think, is too good to pass up. Again, another player who's had links to Essendon through Toomey, and we do give those claims by Toomey some respect because he's so good at what he does. But also suitability. High upside player, a guy who he started to show that he can win the footy a little bit more regularly. He's also great around goals and very technically proficient. So from a talent point of view and a style point of view, I think he adds something definitely to the Essendon Footy Club.
Absolutely. That would leave them with Sharp, Cumming and Noah Hibbins-Hargreaves as a three.
I'd be happy with that with West Coast, let alone Essendon's picks.
Yeah. It's a great three to pick up. I suppose the only argument that I'm making now in my head for that is, would they want to have a tall in there at some point? They'd probably prefer to grab a Schubert or someone like that. Obviously, they're going to be dictated to by the other clubs a little bit, but that'll be interesting for them. It puts me on the board at 22 here, and I have the Hawthorn Hawks. I'm going to place a bid. It's Bid City. Yep. It's an antagonistic bid from the Hawks to get back at the Bombers for the Zach Merritt trade, and they place a bid on Adam Swade.
That's about right, I think.
Which is matched by them, which puts Hawthorn back on the board. I found this pick difficult for them. I like Hibbins-Hargreaves to them, but if he's already off the board, which he was, with you taking him for the Bombers, I think they probably just go after someone that's a little bit more ready-made, maybe an injury replacement type player, and I think they go for Latrell Pickett. He's that overager, so he's someone that can probably come in and have an impact early, and they do like those small forward types. I mean, they're kind of building a bit of an army there with Ginnivan and Watson and Dylan Moore and these types. So another one closer to goal that can finish and just be a bit of a live wire and difficult for those opposition small defenders to get a hold of. So I like this one.
I do too. I actually have a funny feeling that he's going to go earlier than this on the Knights. Now that I look at it, like pick 23, just based on the noise rather than necessarily my own opinion, it seems like he's a real bolter this year. What was I was going to make a point as well, but that's fine. It's eluded me. I have the North Melbourne Football Club here, and I am going to bid on Harry Kyle. It does seem in recent times that Harry Kyle is now expected to be the first Sydney Academy player bid on over Max King, and the North Melbourne Football Club will be the one to pounce. Sydney also have some picks coming up, so this would be a good time to do it. And then assuming the Swans match, which they should, I'm going Harley Barker here for the North Melbourne Football Club. I think it's a bit of a surprise he's lasted this long with a player who's done an ACL but is so talented. It's a little bit hard to forecast exactly how clubs will perceive that risk. But we've seen a success story, I think, with Taj Houghton last year, that clubs will be like, no, if he's suitable, we'll still pick him up. So I do think he could go earlier than this. I think this is a bargain here for North Melbourne potentially. And while I might have thought Talls first, Harley Barker's too good to pass.
Yeah, the knee thing's interesting. I feel, and this is very anecdotal, I don't have evidence for this at all, but knee injuries in the last 5 to 10 years just feel like a lot less of a risk to me than what they did back when I was growing up watching football. Yep. I don't know if you have the same feeling. Guys like Menzel and stuff who had these like reoccurring knee injuries, I just feel like you don't seem to see it as much. They seem to be able to manage them a little bit better. Maybe that's the rehab, sports science getting a little bit better, but I don't think it worries clubs as much. And you could still, I think it would be an absolute steal if they got Harley Barker here. Yeah,
I'm just trying to think of some other examples. I suppose when players do multiple, like that was that Sydney guy, his name's Alex Johnson.
Yeah.
Did he do like 6?
Yeah.
I think he did. Nick Nat did a couple. But then
that was back. We're talking, that's back
that's
like
true.
15, 20 ago, isn't it?
Alex Johnson might have been. Nick Nat was probably 7 years ago.
Okay.
But even still, I do actually agree with your point. And I don't think it's a really strong reason. It's probably also about the missed football in some cases. With Taj, I mean, he didn't play after April and he still went pick 12 or something like that.
He played 3 of the most amazing games you'll ever see of junior football.
Exactly.
And then was gone and still went, pick in a really strong draft, pick 12?
12-ish, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 12 in the end. So brilliant. That puts me back on the board here with North Melbourne. This has just worked out absolutely perfectly for the Kangaroos here. Harley Barker and Blake Threadgold, the best key position defender after Harry Dean. But I think this guy has more upside. The fact that he can run the ball out of defence as well. He's super athletic. Just a gazelle when he tears out of the back line, and he can lock down as well. So he's got everything, and this would be a super draft for North Melbourne if they got these two.
I love it. That's a great combination, an ideal scenario for the North Melbourne Footy Club. Yep. I have Essendon here. Again, I remember the point that I had forgotten. I was going to say if Essendon did trade with Gold Coast to get up, that puts them in the mid-teens. They could get a Schubert in that scenario. In this scenario, We're just going to pick best available. And I like Riley Onley for them. He's a player he's like oscillated wildly this year. At the start of the year, considered a top prospect, faded away, and now we're talking about him quite a lot again. And the upside there is quite clear, 195 centimetre, I think.
Yeah.
Sort of explosive player.
Big boy.
And adds, again, we're talking about a point of difference here for the Essendon Footy Club. I think they've done really well with this draft with guys like, who do we take from? Sam Cumming.
Yeah,
Sam Cumming, Dyson Sharp, less so, but still a good player. But
Noah Hibbins
and Riley Onley. There's some genuine star potential, I think, if it all clicks for these players. So
totally.
I'm happy with that.
The only argument you would make, like I said before, it's like all a little bit the same. But at the same time, if those players are there, difficult not to take them, I think.
For sure.
So that puts me back here with the Sydney Swans.
Yep.
We have on the board.
So in previous mocks, we've had them matching bids for Kyle and King, but I don't think necessarily. Well, in this scenario, they get a pick in before
they get their standalone pick. So I've decided to go with them for a bit of it's not a bolter because he's been injured. It feels like a bolter because he's being spoken about more now, but he was a high prospect at the beginning of the season, just didn't get to play. Another one with a knee injury. It's Sam Allen. And you feel with, bringing Curnow in, they have drafted a little bit in the key position stocks in recent years. They probably still lack quality in that area, but they are a team that are ready to go now. And I think Sam Allen's someone, once he gets back from that knee injury, he could actually impact and give them a little bit more depth in the midfield or come in and play a wing role, something like that.
I like it. Sydney are also another team that sort of aren't afraid to pull a bit of a bolter. I don't know if you'd call him a bolter at 28. It's probably kind of even at this point in the draft, so it's maybe not. But you get the feeling they're also a team that sort of goes off their own board that doesn't match up with consensus.
I think they'd be more likely to want to get somebody with their picks that can come in and impact straight away. Sam Allen's not particularly going to do that, but are you going to get anyone to be able to do that at pick 28 in the draft?
Yeah.
Maybe not. And they've got their academy guys as well that could potentially do that.
Absolutely. So I have the Western Bulldogs at pick 29. I'm actually going to drop a double bid here and close out the top 30 here. So I'll bid on West Coast Tyler Williams. In this scenario, West Coast have the points and the list spots to match, so they will do so. And then at pick 30, they'll bid on Jai Murray, who is getting talked about as a real bolter in this year's draft. Gold Coast will match this bid. I'm going to assume that they can match the bid at this point because in reality, even if they don't have enough points in this mock, I think in reality they probably do maneuver points so they can do so. And then, I know they have some other players there, but Jai Murray has been linked in recent times to, I think it was Geelong, Fremantle, and maybe even the Western Bulldogs.
Yes.
I think in the top 30. Yep. So
the range seems to be incredibly wide on him of where teams rate him, but you could definitely expect a bid in the 20s.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll just assume for now that the Gold Coast Suns will match. And that is the end of the draft. I will say that it was a little tricky picking another player for the I should say that's the end of our top 30, not the actual draft.
No, that's it.
Yeah,
this is the draft. That's who you got.
Every team's passing. But some other names left on the board here for the Bulldogs. There's a Jack Ison bid that didn't come, which could happen in the top 30. Bo Adensall, Max King. Then there's a couple of tolls that are not suitable for the Dogs at this pick, which would have been Ludowick and Louis Emmett. I would have thought not great fits for the Bulldogs. Would you agree?
I think so. Again, where are the Bulldogs at? Are they trying to rebuild? Probably not. They're probably trying to get players in that can play. So I think they go a different way. And I like the Murray bid for that reason, but I don't think they're going to be looking for tolls too deeply. No,
I mean, they've got such a great depth of key position talent in the forward half of the ground. So maybe your Rory Wrights, your Krasnodemskis, that could be an option for them, or a Kondagiannis. Am I impressing you with my incredible command of their surnames? I hope that was right. So a little bit hard to forecast there with the Dogs. You'd think there'd be another team that would have maybe gone for a Riley Onley or, a Thread Gold, but they're not available.
Just to wrap this up, who do you think will be? I know we've gone fairly pragmatic there with that list, I think. Linking players or putting players to teams that they have been linked to at least. Who do you think could be one that we've got maybe not on the board or is in that sort of top 20 to 30 that could go really, really high?
Someone that we haven't picked? Sorry.
We both. Okay. Either we haven't picked or is maybe in our 20 to 30 that could really bolt up that order.
Oh, okay. I would say Latrell Pickett.
Yes.
Could go, not super high. Like he's linked to Melbourne, but I think it's also been hosed down that they would actually take him there. So maybe like 15 onward. Harley Barker, similar. Like I would say he has a wide range. Anyone outside the top 12, maybe.
Ibo?
Yeah. Toomey did suggest that his range starts at 20. But who knows? Like, because if Essendon trade up to 15, they might take him there. In which case, then obviously
he's a
bolts
lot
bit.
better than that for me.
Yeah, that's fair. So I don't know. I do see the potential. Or Schubert as well would also have a massive range.
Yes.
I think Zumi himself said if he doesn't go in the top 10, he could slide into the 20s. And
We've got Thread Gold here at 26. I'd be surprised if he gets past 20.
Yeah?
I just think someone takes him.
Yeah.
He's hard, when you actually do it out, it's hard to see who takes him, but I'm sure somebody will.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be surprised. I went Mitch Marsh to the Crows. I wouldn't be surprised if Threadgold went there.
True, yeah. There'd be some appetite for a key position defender. At least one waiting in the wings with Jordan Butts maybe going the other way.
Absolutely.
Next year, I wouldn't be mad to see that. He's a good player. So just summarising that 21 to 30 picks, we have Noah Hibbins-Hargreaves and Adam Swade joining the Essendon Football Club, whereas Hawthorn took Latrell Pickett after that Swade bid. Harry Kyle joined the Sydney Swans through a match bid from North Melbourne, who then took Harley Barker and Blake Threadgold. And then Essendon have Riley Onley fall into their laps at 27. Sydney took a punt on Sam Allen at 28 before the Bulldogs offered bids on Tyler Williams from West Coast and Jai Murray from the Gold Coast Suns, which were both matched in this scenario.
Love that mock, Jesse. The last one. The last pre-draft mock.
Yeah.
It's scary. Are you going to pop any individual ones?
I was thinking about it. Well, it would be a time-based decision, that one.
Me too.
But it'd be good fun. Because, it's always a little bit, there's always some compromise when you go pick for pick. So it'd be interesting to see like how different it would be if we just went ourselves. I think I would have had a different pick for West Coast.
We often do the week, like we're texting each other the picks through, and you'll pick someone, I'll be like, bastard.
Yeah, that's right.
So that is a wrap for our top 30 mock draft, the last one pre-draft. We're going to be going live for night 2 of the draft on Thursday. Check that one out. That's going to be awesome. I'm super excited for it. And night 1, Jesse, you might be doing something there. You're not 100% sure.
Night 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably just some reaction videos.
Some reaction stuff.
And then we'll be here for night 2 as well.
Plenty more content. And then our final stream next Saturday. Check all of that out. We'll see you in the next one.